Okay, welcome back. If you're back here watching video number 2, that's exciting because it meant that video number 1 didn't completely bore your pants off. So, after our our landing, or our first landing, I suppose, we can recover the vessel. So we've done that, and what it brings us is science. We gathered 1 data, and that data value was 5, so we get 5 science, which means we've got 5 science to spend, so let's go decide how we want to spend our science. We'll go next. We see that Jebediah Kerman was recovered safely as well, which is great. We don't have to go hire another astronaut. So this is where we can introduce the research and development building, or series of buildings. So we'll click that, and that brings us to the tech tree. As you can see, it gets pretty advanced. So we'll start with our first choice. We can choose between 2 different research pathways, I guess, and we can come back later and catch up on the other pathways. So we have basic rocketry. That's one option. Basic rocketry would get us a liquid-fueled engine, which will be more advanced than the solid rocket motor that we were using before. We can get a fuel tank, which will provide fuel for the liquid fuel engine, which is important. And then finally, we have a bigger version of that solid rocket motor we were using before. So when we have bigger ships, we can use this motor potentially. So overall, that doesn't really get us much in the way of extra science. We can just build a bigger rocket, and we won't really know anything more about the universe. So that's not terribly enticing. Now if we go to Engineering 101, what do we have? Well, we have a decoupler. What's that, you say? This will allow us to split our rocket into pieces in flight, which is really useful when the engines and fuel tanks get so heavy that the parachutes can't keep up. It's really useful to be able to cut away all that junk and just be left with the parts that you want to bring back to Earth. We also have a thermometer, which could be helpful to get more science, and we have some antennas. So I think between the decoupler and the thermometer, this is the most attractive part, so we'll research that. And now that gives us access to those parts. So we'll leave the facility and go back to the VAB. So we have our test 1, and we're going to modify it, so it's now going to be test 2. So what do we want to try? Well, first of all, we want to get some more science. So let's go down to the science button, or the science tab here on parts. And we see 2 different scientific instruments. We have the thermometer and the mystery goo containment unit. So we'll take our thermometer, and these parts attach to the side instead of attaching at the top, which you could, I suppose, but they attach nicely on the side too. And we'll use the mystery goo containment unit, and we're going to put this on this side. It's going to be a little bit lopsided, but who cares? So nothing will change with the staging. We'll still need our rocket on stage 1 and our parachute on stage 0. But I lied. We will change the staging because we have a decoupler. So what do decouplers do? Well, I can split the rocket open with them. So we'll detach the rocket booster, and we'll put the coupler on the bottom of the pod. And now we'll attach the rocket booster back to the bottom of the decoupler. Now you can see there's another piece that we can activate, but we don't want it to activate as soon as we launch the rocket because we want them to be together. So we'll add a stage, and we'll slide the decoupler into that middle stage. So now the first stage that we're going to activate is going to be the rocket booster. Then we'll decouple the pod from the booster, and then we'll activate the parachute. Alright, so let's give this a try. We'll save it as test number 2 and launch. Okay, so same rules as before. We'll check our staging. Rocket, decoupler, parachute, that's good. We'll turn on the SAS and the RCS. give our little pilot Jeb a rub on the head for good luck, and we'll get right back into it. So, same as before, ignition in 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. G-force goes up, solid fuel burns down, speed increases, but this time we're tilting a little bit to the right. So why would that be? Well, Kerbal Space Program is a physics simulator, so having this weight and aerodynamic drag of the mystery goo containment unit on the side is actually changing how the rocket's flying. So it's steering the rocket for us a bit. So we're coasting on up, just like we did before, and when we get to the top of our orbit or our trajectory, that's when we're going to take the science. So we can watch that without even going to the map. We can just watch that right here. While we're looking at the altimeter and our vertical speed, you can see that our little atmosphere indicator has gotten higher. So we're in a thinner part of the atmosphere. Oh, looks like we're heading back down. So let's take some science. Let's log the temperature. We'll keep that experiment. We'll observe the mystery goo. Apparently it jiggles and wobbles as the craft flies. Okay, and then we'll keep that experiment as well. And then, since we're on our way back down, we want to activate our parachute. But first we'll decouple, so staging in 3, 2, 1. And our rocket engine flies away, and parachute in 3, 2, 1, spacebar. And because we're going to be under a parachute soon, we'll deactivate our RCS and our SAS, and we'll just coast gently back down to land. And we'll speed up. Alright, so as you can see, we're not landing on top of the Kerbal Space Center this time. We're coming down over the shores of Kerbin, and that's because we had that mystery goo containment unit that tilted the rocket's flight path far enough to the east that we ended up east of the center instead of going back over top of it. Okay, we're coming down real slow now because we don't have the weight of the engine, so we'll speed up the descent. Until splashdown. And now we can go up here and we'll see recover vessel or space center, and we want to recover the vessel so that we don't leave Jebediah out in the ocean. So we'll do this, and that'll bring everything back to the hangar. And we'll get to see the science that we brought back again. So as you remember from the early introduction to the video, we had the science from our first test flight. Well, now this is the science from our second test flight. Because we had the temperature, the thermometer, and the mystery goo, we were able to gather a lot more data. And that's science means a lot more science for us. So we've got 5.6 science from the temperature, 7 science from the mystery goo, and we get a little bit of science from recovering a vessel that survived a flight. But since we already have that data, it's not as valuable to us, so it's not worth as much. So you can't just farm the same way as you can in other games. You have to do stuff new stuff. So we'll go next. Jeb's ready for his next assignment. Done. And then we can go spend that science at the research and development lab. So at this point, it would probably make sense for us to buy basic rocketry since we can't afford anything else yet. So we'll research that, and then we'll have a whole bunch of new parts to go play with in the VAB for next time. Thanks for coming back.